Welcome to Echoes of the Unknown, the podcast where we'll be exploring some of the world's most fascinating unsolved mysteries. I'm Jack Montgomery, and today we're traveling back more than 3 decades to revisit one of Austin's most heinous crimes. The 1991 yogurt shop murders has long been seared into the city's collective memory. The deaths of 4 teenage girls had ripple effects on a tight-knit community that previously had been comfortable leaving their front doors unlocked. This mass murder stands as one of Texas's most haunting unsolved criminal cases, forever changing the fabric of a city known for its welcoming spirit and vibrant culture. The brutal killing of 4 teenage girls, Jennifer Harbison, 17, Sarah Harbison, 15, Eliza Thomas, 17, and Amy Ayers, 13, continues to perplex investigators and traumatize the community after all these years. The events unfolded on a cool Friday night, December 6, 1991, at the I Can't Believe It's yogurt shop on West Anderson Lane in North Austin. Jennifer and Eliza were working the closing shift, while Jennifer's younger sister Sarah and her friend Amy had stopped by to visit before heading to a planned sleepover. Sarah and Amy were helping out with the chores, while they waited for Jennifer and Eliza to finish working so they could get a ride to the Harbisons' home. What should have been an ordinary evening turned horribly tragic sometime between the shop's 11 p.m. closing time and midnight. At 11:47 p.m., a patrol officer noticed smoke coming from the building. When firefighters entered the burned shop, they discovered a scene of unimaginable horror. All 4 girls had been bound, gagged, and shot execution style, their bodies stacked in the back of the shop. The crime scene revealed disturbing details about the attack's brutality. Multiple gunshot wounds in the bodies suggested either hesitation or intentional cruelty. Investigators recovered both .22 caliber and .380 caliber bullets, indicating multiple attackers were likely involved. At least 2 of the girls were found partially nude, indicating that they may have been sexually assaulted before all 4 girls were shot to death. The perpetrators had deliberately set the shop on fire to destroy evidence, creating significant challenges for investigators from the outset. Both the precise staging of the scene and the attempt to destroy evidence pointed to a calculated criminal act, rather than a spontaneous crime of opportunity. The investigation faced immediate hurdles. Since first responders initially treated the scene as a fire rather than a homicide, crucial forensic evidence may have been compromised. Despite receiving over 2,000 tips from the public and a reward fund for information leading to the perpetrators that reached up to $125,000, investigators struggled to develop solid leads. Witness statements from nearby businesses proved inconsistent, making it difficult to establish a reliable timeline or a suspect description. Police said at the time they believed the assailants had entered the yogurt shop with the intention of robbing it, but the investigation explored multiple theories about the motive. Was it a robbery gone wrong? A targeted attack? A random act of violence? Witnesses reported seeing unidentified men in the shop that night, but these accounts never led to concrete developments. The intensity of the fire had destroyed much crucial evidence, leaving investigators with limited physical clues to work from. A major break seemed to come in 1999 when authorities arrested 4 men: Morris Pierce, Forrest Wellborn, Michael Scott, and Robert Springsteen. The arrests hinged primarily on confessions obtained during intense police interrogations. However, these confessions would later prove problematic as they contained inconsistencies and, even worse, allegations of coercion. Michael Scott and Robert Springsteen were initially convicted. Scott was sentenced to life in prison in 2002, and Springsteen received a death sentence in 2001. However, their convictions were overturned in October 2009 after the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals ruled that their confessions had been improperly used during their respective trials. Although Scott and Springsteen were among several individuals initially questioned in the immediate aftermath of the killings, it wasn't until 8 years later, when new detectives took over the case, that they were charged. Those new detectives elicited confessions from both men, which became the primary evidence used to convict them. No physical evidence ever connected either man to the murders. The two men confessed following lengthy coercive interrogations with Austin police detectives in September 1999. Each defendant's confession was used against the other in their separate trials. Springsteen later explained, "I was berated and berated and berated by the police officers until they obtained what it was they wanted to hear. They were not going to allow me to leave. And basically, they broke me down." One photo in the official files shows a police officer holding a gun to Scott's head during his interrogation. Volunteer attorneys from two law firms agreed to represent Scott and Springsteen in their post-conviction proceedings. They succeeded in convincing appellate courts to overturn both convictions. The courts found that the trial court erred in allowing the state to use one man's confession as evidence in the trial against the other, thereby denying their Sixth Amendment confrontation rights. Both had recanted their statements to police and consistently maintained their innocence. After the court ordered new trials for both defendants, the state attempted to renew its prosecution of the men by testing DNA samples from the crime scene. However, when these tests revealed that none of the DNA belonged to either Scott or Springsteen, prosecutors declared they were unprepared to go to trial. State investigators tested more than 100 people in all, but they were unable to find any match to the DNA evidence. In October 2009, the charges against both were dismissed, and they walked out of prison as free men. The collapse of these cases, with two men ultimately found to have been wrongly convicted, represented a terrible failure of justice. But it was also a devastating setback for the victims' families, who had briefly believed they had found closure. The case exposed significant flaws in the justice system, particularly regarding interrogation techniques and the reliability of confessions obtained under pressure. The wrongful convictions meant that the real perpetrators remained free, adding another layer of tragedy to an already devastating case. The controversy surrounding the arrests highlighted the vulnerability of suspects to coercive interrogation tactics and the potential for false confessions. The murders profoundly impacted Austin's community. Parents became more protective, businesses enhanced security measures, and the area around West Anderson Lane became a place many avoided. The city lost some of its characteristic ease and openness, replaced by a new awareness of vulnerability. The tragedy marked a turning point for Austin, shattering its image as a safe, carefree college town. The victims' families have shown remarkable resilience through decades of uncertainty. Many became advocates for victims' rights and pushed for improvements in forensic technology and law enforcement practices. Their continued fight for justice has helped drive changes in how similar cases are handled. The family's advocacy work has contributed to reforms in investigation procedures and victim support services. Austin's law enforcement community also evolved in response to the tragedy. The police department strengthened its forensic capabilities and emphasized community vigilance in public safety campaigns. The case served as a catalyst for modernizing investigative techniques and improving evidence handling procedures. Training protocols were enhanced to ensure better preservation of crime scenes and more effective collection of forensic evidence. Today, the case remains active within the Austin Police Department's cold case unit. Investigators continue to periodically review evidence, hoping that advances in DNA testing and forensic science might finally provide answers. The victims' families and supporters continue to advocate for new testing of evidence using the latest available technology, believing that scientific advances could someday finally break the case. The yogurt shop murders represent more than just an unsolved crime. They mark a turning point in Austin's history and serve as a sobering reminder of the importance of the persistent pursuit of justice. The loss of Jennifer, Sarah, Eliza, and Amy continues to resonate through the community, driving ongoing efforts to solve this devastating case and prevent similar tragedies in the future. Investigators continue to seek information that could lead to the identification and prosecution of those responsible for this horrific crime. Even after more than 3 decades, the possibility remains that new evidence or testimony could emerge to finally bring closure to this dark chapter in Austin's history. The cold case unit maintains that even the smallest piece of information could be the key to solving this enduring mystery and bringing long-awaited justice to the victims and their families. Thank you for listening to this episode of Echoes of the Unknown. If you found this case compelling, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with fellow mystery lovers. Until next time, stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, justice may be delayed, but it should never be denied.